This is a summary of the keynote talk I have given on 17th of this month, January, to TSOW People Leaders Summit held in Bangalore. They've asked me to speak on lessons from a lifetime in HR, what truly endures in building people and organizations. So I've given the title for my talk as We Have Changed the Landscape of HR in the Last 50 Years. I chose this topic because I think it is exactly about 50 years ago. We started the first human resource development department in Larsen and Toubro. And therefore, I thought it's appropriate to celebrate 50 years of HR by talking about this particular thing. As I mentioned in my talk, I am not a HR person by my education initially. I started as a mathematics, physics, and chemistry graduate from Loyola College, where I did my BSc, then moved on to bachelor's in education. So, Regional College of Education, then did my master's in psychology. It is psychology which has given a lot of base for human resource development. But at the time I was doing psychology, I had no idea that at one point of time we are going to create this nomenclature called human resource development. So it's only a few years later, I think we created this. In 1975, we were asked by Larsen and Toubro to examine performance appraisal system of Larsen and Toubro. While examining the system, we observed that the system is not making people happy. It's not motivating people. It is not also building competencies. It was only being used as a monitoring mechanism, monitoring the performance of individuals. We interviewed a large number of people and got from them that they wanted a performance management system. I mean, they used to call it appraisal, which helps them to be clear about what they are expected to do, periodically receive feedback from their seniors, and also create opportunities for them to grow and develop. And they didn't mind if this is not linked to rewards. They said it doesn't matter. I think we would like to treat our work itself as a reward, and we want to enjoy our work. That is when we formulated the personnel department that was existing at the time cannot serve this purpose, and therefore we came up with a new human resource development system. This is the title we suggested. There was no HRD at the time. In fact, there was no term human resources used in 1975. Our subsequent research indicated that the term human capital was being used by some economists, but never human resources. So I think Uday Parikh and I are the ones who have created this term human resources department. Actually, we started as human resource development, and we identified 6 subsystems to help people to develop. First is the performance appraisal system, which later retitled as performance management. Second is feedback and counseling. Now counseling is replaced by the term coaching. Third is potential appraisal, and fourth is career planning and development. Fifth is human resources organization development and HR information systems. These were the 6 systems that we originally created, which was called as human resource development. Details of this is given in the 3 books that are exhibited here, Designing and Managing Human Resource Systems. I think while we started this in 1975, it was in 1978 79, we organized a seminar to disseminate the concepts we formulated and wrote our initial chapters of this book, Designing and Managing Human Resource Systems. Almost about 11, 12 years later, in 1990, I wrote this book called HRD Missionary, which is still available and which is still a popular book. Now, when I look at the last 15 years, and when I say we changed the landscape, how did we change the landscape? From where to where? I think from a reactive people-centric policies to proactive people policies, HR. From control to development, that is the spirit we created appraisals worked as more to control tools, from monitoring people and their work to self-regulation, from dependence to interdependence, depending on job descriptions, senior instruction of seniors to be able to do independently and also do things in collaboration with others. So from competition to collaboration, from suspicion to trust, largely personal policies used to be based on suspicion. Today, these are based on trust. From irresponsibility to responsibility, many personal policies, HR policies in those days assumed that people are responsible and therefore everything is to monitor their making them responsible. So today, I think it is self-regulation and responsibility from individual to team, from role taking, do what you are told to do, to role making. I also create my roles, from administration to learning, from systems and department to function, and from function to philosophy, values, and life. These are all well described both in these books, which was written in 1981, it is still popular, and HRD Missionary, which was written a few years later. So that is the landscape that we have created in HR. Empowering landscape, enabling landscape, building individuals, building individual in relation to role, building roles, building teams, building organizations, making them institutions, and even building the country, contribution to the country. I think that is the landscape change today. How did we do that? I think the most important thing that we have done was spreading whatever we have discovered, what we called as integrated HRD systems approach to both public sector and private sector. We tried our best to do it for non-formal sector, also into NGO sector and government, but I won't say that we have succeeded phenomenally. In fact, the National HRD Network was supposed to do that, but unfortunately, they have not gone beyond the corporate sector. Who are the early influencers in this? Certainly Larsen Tobro, because that is where we discovered. Then I joined in public sector. Bharat Movers, worked as general manager. Actually, it was called as, at my instance, they called me as advisor in general manager's capacity because I didn't want to get into execution part. So that is the first public sector we worked on. Later, I think we spread it to Indian Oil, State Bank of India and its associates. Bank of Baroda started on its own. Canara Bank, I think, as they started reading and looking at things. Bharat Heavy Electricals, Engineers India, Steel Authority, and so on. In the private sector, we worked very closely with KK Noria and team at Crompton Gives. Aisha has done a lot on its own with the support from Anil Sachdev and a number of others. Sundaram Fazinas were doing something based on their own philosophy, largely TVS Iyengar's philosophy. And I think when they came to know about HR, they also started reorienting themselves. Some of those who are associated with us, some Murthy and others, joined Sundaram Fazinas and made a lot. Same thing happened with Murugappa Group, EID Parry and a number of others. Tata Group, of course, had done it on their own. I don't want to think we can claim for that because Jamshedji Tata himself started, although it was not called as HR philosophy, welfare-oriented philosophy. And that is how he created even townships to take care of the welfare of people. Birla Group had its own philosophy, but they started discovering HR. At one point of time, they had 26 different HR subsystems. So early influencers are both private sector and public sector. But the early influencers were also books we have done, seminars we conducted, executive development programs, courses we have run both at XLRI, Center for HRD, and at IIMA, and many other B schools with whom we collaborated in schools of social work. So this was possible by doing innovative HR practices, collaboration with other bodies like ISTD, NIPM, All India Management Association, and the Association of Indian Management Schools, and so on. So there are many institutions that have contributed to that. Once we started the Academy of HRD, we started running diploma programs in collaboration with Indira Gandhi Open University and started spreading it to other institutions like Symbiosis Center for HRD and All India Management Association took over the diploma that we were running in human resource development and so on. So these are some of the earlier influences. So I would say NHRDN, AHRD, NHRDN formed in 1985, Academy of HRD formed in 1990. IIMA has always been there, and XLRI as B schools and HR schools played a very critical role. I would say L&T gave birth to Center for HRD, and I was L&T professor at XLRI in 1983-84. 1985, I joined back IIM when we started the National HRD Network. The Center for HRD at XLRI did a marvelous job. L&T and IIMA, others facilitated this in 1985. So Center for HRD gave birth to National HRD Network, which in turn gave birth to Academy of HRD in 1990. NHRDN took off and gave birth to many chapters and entities. Today, National HRD Network has over 50 chapters and also established chapters abroad and established student chapters and so on. So chapters and dissemination used to be the way we spread this. Our HRD network developed various HR leaders who disseminated practices. IIMA also started helping us to do innovations. It was IIMA that helped me to start the what is later came to be known as 360-degree feedback. I also started given assignments to do the assessment centers with the help of IIMA. IIMA as a management school has its own limitations, and therefore I was impatient, and that is when I set up TBRLS. So once we set up TBRLS in 1996, we started working on repositioning HRD through HR audit. HR audit is essentially conceptualized at IIM, but I think promoted by TBRLS. We also changed the performance appraisal system to PMS and 360-degree feedback. By now, we have covered almost about over 30,000 managers across the country. In fact, we also worked in other countries using our 360-degree feedback. With the help of Aditya Birla Group, we did this in Thailand, we did it in Philippines, we did this in Egypt and many other places and so on. And we also had done 360 feedback in Nigeria and things like that. PRLS therefore did a lot of work on 360 leadership development, assessment development centers, coaching, institution building. And we, I must say that TVRLS unhesitatingly trained our competitors. I think the most important contribution of TVRLS has been through a variety of books. I think these are all the books written at TVRLS. In fact, I tell people I used to write books when I was at IIM Ahmedabad, but I've written more books after I left IIM Ahmedabad than while I was at IIM Ahmedabad. And writing books for a consulting company is building competitors, because with 300 to 500 rupees you buy a book and you start practicing whatever the consulting company is practicing. So that is why I say here that we unhesitatingly trained our competitors who offered various services at low cost. In fact, anybody interested in our balance sheet, you will be surprised to discover that our output in terms of financial terms has not changed too much in the last 15 to 20 years. It is more or less the same, but we are not unhappy about it. We are quite happy. And one of the reasons for this is we built a large number of competitors who learn from us, go back and offer the same service at a low cost. Why we are happy at it is that if they improve the product, that is wonderful. Even if they don't improve the product, they are disseminating our products. Not only these bodies, there are hundreds of individuals who mattered in changing the landscape and creating a new landscape of HR. I've mentioned here a few people. I think I have discussed in detail the first 15 years of National HRD Network, which mattered in changing the landscapes of HR in the country in this book called History of HRD. And we picked up 30 leaders, top leaders, Aravind Agarwal and I, and documented in this book, Leaders in the Making, which I'm sure most of you may be familiar with. I mentioned some names here, but I must say that it is practically impossible for me to put all the names of people who are associated and who contributed to the change of this landscape. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of people who contributed to building this. With all this, where do we stand today? in terms of the HR landscape. In the beginning, it was largely employee welfare driven, and a lot of experiments were conducted in OB and HR. That is how it started. But today, if you look at it, is more complex, it is diverse, multidimensional, dynamic, and embraces diversity. It still continues a high focus on recruitment, onboarding, skill building, employee experience, remote work. This is something which became popular post-pandemic, retention and performance management. So if you go back to last 40 years and leave the last 10 years, lot of last 40 years we were exploring and stabilizing HRD, or competence building, commitment building, and culture building, with which we started in 1975. The post, I think, 2000, HRD has taken many avatars. Quality at some point of time was important, late 90s and early 2000. Competencies have become important. PMS continues to be important. Employee experience is the new term that is being used, and so on. Talent management is important. Societal emphasis and stakeholder management is a new thing now. Artificial intelligence is making this faster and emphasizing human in HR. Now, HR today, this is the biggest change that has taken place. HR is the business job of everyone. You are your own HR manager. And what do HR function does? Its main job is to make everyone take charge of his or her own development, talent, learning, OD, and so on. So HR has a big job to make everyone take charge of his or her own HR, while HR is the job of everyone. What is the implication of all this for the future? I think the implication of all this for future is you can do business only by understanding HR or understanding people. And people today means all stakeholders, starting with customers. If you don't understand customer, you can't do any HR. You need to understand employers and their concerns because they are the financiers, investors. And you have to focus on employees, top management, workmen, and above all, HR also is concerned. This is what the pandemic has taught us. If you're not concerned about the society, you will cease to exist, because to create health within the organization, you need to have health in the society. Mental health, psychological health, physical health, all these things are becoming important. So we all exist in a context, and therefore HR's job is also to create a very good society. Today, I think the implication for future, you should have a drive for boundaryless learning. Don't put boundaries on your learning. You should learn from a variety of sources. Use various methods, including whatever you're giving. And you should also learn from your next door neighbors and strangers. If anybody is attending a conference, you are not likely to know more than 10% of the people. You will probably know a few people in a conference you are attending, but conferences are attended by 3, 4, 500,000 of people. They are strangers to you. You have gone there to learn. Every contact you make is an opportunity to learn. So there's a lot of learning that takes place. And if you are not interested in learning, you won't be able to achieve much. Today, that is the focus. So implication for future is treat everyone as a source of learning. Every opportunity, make use of it and then learn. Clarity and commitment of purpose. It is very, very important to be clear about what you are expected to do. And I also say hard work, whether it is 7 hours or 70 hours, 90 hours or 160 hours. The more work you put in, the more you reap. Of course, you can also say smart work is very important and so on. We also today say it is important to focus on values, which Uday Parikh talked of as octopus values. I've changed it, I've added 3 more letters, and I call them as octopus values, which includes C for purpose. This is a new thing that I've added. O, openness. C for collaboration, trust, authenticity, proactivity, learning. L is something which we have introduced, autonomy, and confrontation, experimentation, and D for discipline. I think we need to have discipline. So also honesty values include honesty, integrity, openness, and so on. Continuous communication plays an important role. So friends, I think we need to constantly look inward, discover our talent, and keep communicating to other people. So today, I think that is the world in which we live. Every day is an opportunity, every minute is an opportunity to learn and so on. And we at our company, TVRLS, try to promote organizations as places of learning using HRD as a tool and as a mechanism. I hope you have enjoyed this and you would agree with me that in the last 50 years, we made quite some difference. When I say we includes a large number of HR leaders, HR managers who participated in this journey and contributed to this. Thank you from TVRLS for listening. Do put your comments if you happen to watch this in LinkedIn or YouTube or anywhere. And do visit our website at tvrls.com. You'll get an understanding of what are the various activities we are doing. And we continue to shape the landscape of human resource development. Thank you very much and all the best. Have a great year ahead.